the original well drilled on the Flickner operation in 1955. We're still using that well for production purposes. I do have a liner in it because it's got an old steel casing, and I'm worried about the casing giving in at some point, but we are producing out of the same hole. So yeah, this is goes back to the Flickner family a long time. But this drip tape then was installed in 2001. So we're going to hit our 25th year this year. And configuration with that one is you've got the pumping units, and then you filter before it goes to the field. That's this configuration here. And then you have the ability to inject fertilizer. Typically that's UAN. I can do that without any problem. Phosphorus with the bicarb load in the water is a problem. You got to watch that and kind of stay away from that one because it can plug the emitters up. But it's automated system, just kind of like a urban house with sprinkler systems. Water in their yard goes from zone to zone. Same arrangement with this one here is that you've got a control box here, and we've got all different zones that so you plug in which zones and how long you want it to water, and it basically becomes an automatic watering system, assuming everything goes right.
So 25 years coming up on using this technology. Explain your motivation for implementing it and how it's kind of changed things for you guys.
Well, again, we did gated pipe for a long time. We got a fair amount of topography variation and so forth. And then when my father's health was failing and I was still traveling, had to make a decision as to, okay, how are we going to water the deal with and it became a labor issue. Didn't have the labor. And I had seen the concept in Arizona and California being used. Decided that there was some application here. So that's kind of what the driving force is. You're able to water the whole property. Pivot didn't work out too well because we had the creek and farm stead obstacles in the way and so forth. And we were going to end up with an awful lot of wasted acres that wouldn't be able to be watered, and drip was the answer that we could water every acre on the farm that had been permitted. So it was a very expensive proposition, but one that glad we did because from a labor savings, it's good. From an water efficiency standpoint, there's some real advantages. Fertility. Like I say, the biggest downfall I see with it is the leak problem that you have, which is kind of rodent dependent, and also the inability to germinate a crop if you don't have moisture at planting. You can't germinate it up. So.
And as we were talking about, you have to make sure that the strips when you're planting are not, you're not planting right on top of the drip tape, right?
Well, the key concept is, since you're 60 inches between drip tape on a 30-inch planting, you want every row basically 15 inches with, one row or middle rows then would not have a tape at all. So the concept is try to match the distance from the plant to the drip tape and make sure that that's constant because if the crop is planted right over the drip tape, that means the next row over is 30 inches away from water, and that's not a good thing that you want to see. So the idea is, okay, when we pull the strips, because I want the planter to run on the strips, so let's strip till it such that we basically, have that 15 inches between dripper tape and the row that will be planted, with the idea then that when we come back and plant it, we're going to plant on top the strip.
And about how much less water are you using compared to other people in your area because of the drip tape?
Well, all said and done, and again, we've got mobile drip on a pivot and some things like that. But the university, K-State, has done a study. We're using 40% less water than the county average, which is huge. we're over allocated with the aquifer. We have seen a decline in the aquifer since 1970, but they do think that if we could cut water usage by 5 to 7%, that we would be sustainable. Well, if you have a 40% savings and everybody else is using that much more, if they'd even cut that in half, that would have major implications for the aquifer, which is a lot different than the Ogallala issue, out in western Kansas. Everybody hears about the Ogallala. We're not in the Ogallala. We're in the High Plains aquifer, of which the Ogallala is part of. But our issues here are a lot different than the Ogallala in western Kansas.